All praises to Yahweh, Bashim Yahweh Shai, and double honors to the elders of GMS and all the other GMS camps out there doing the work, and all the other camps that are doing the work. They may not be affiliated with GMS, but are doing the work, but are preaching the true words of the scriptures according to the teachings of the elders of GMS. Now, today, I want to give you a little synopsis on a book called The Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion. This is one of the world's most notorious books, and in the company issuing it, the book tree, it has no agenda, and as you know, we are not a hate group, nor are we connected or affiliated with any such hate groups. It is claimed that this book contributes to the deaths of many people, and we do not argue this point. And after careful study, we have concluded and publicly stated that we do believe in what this book says. So let's just get to it, yeah? This was a book designed by the Illuminati, the so-called Jews, who are all Illuminatis and members of the Illuminati. Now, this is a book that they put together back in the 18th century, late 18th century, early 19th century, over 150 years ago basically, detailing what their plans are for the future of mankind, the world, society as a whole, and how things were going to progress. So, let's just get to it. We're going to jump to page, we're going to be jumping around and just reading excerpts from this book so you can get an understanding of what it's about. We'll jump to page 27. We'll start with page 27. Yeah? Okay. Page 27, this is the second paragraph on page 27. At any rate, in the American Hebrew of June 25th, 1920, which is another book, Herman Bernstein writes this: about a year ago, a representative of the Department of Justice submitted to me a copy of the manuscript of The Jewish Peril by Professor Niles and asked for my opinion of the work. He said that the manuscript was a translation of a Russian book published in 1905, which was later suppressed. The manuscript was supposed to contain protocols of the wise men of Zion and was supposed to have been read by Dr. Hertz at a secret conference of the Zionist Congress at Basel, which I think is in Belgium. He expressed the opinion that the work was probably that of a Dr. Theodore Herzl. He said that some American senators who had seen the manuscript were amazed to find that so many years ago a scheme had been elaborated by the so-called Jews, which is now being carried out, and that Bolshevism had been planned years ago by Jews who sought to destroy the world. Now, Bolshevism is what the Russians, Stalin, and I forget his predecessor, Lenin, had brought into Russia, which was to do with communism, which was all designed by the Illuminati to destroy the royal family that existed in Russia at that time. That went back to Peter the Great, basically. And that was their whole plan, to destroy the whole structure of the royalty in that country. And that royal family that goes back to Peter the Great are known Israelites. Their heritage goes back to the 12 tribes of Israel. Was to destroy that and to bring in communism. And communism is what this book speaks about, is Bolshevism. Okay? So we'll treat up page 29. These questions all receive full attention in the protocols. Whosoever was the mind that conceived them possessed a knowledge of human nature, of history and of statecraft which is dazzling in its brilliant completeness and terrible in the objects to which it turns its powers. Neither a madman nor an international criminal, but more likely a supermind mastered by devotion to a people and a faith could be the author. If indeed one mind alone conceived them, it is too terribly real for fiction, too well sustained for speculation, and too deep in its knowledge of the secret springs of life for forgery. So it's trying to show you that it's that that the people that designed this are very intelligent, and which we know are the elite, the elitists, and the Illuminati and the so-called Jews are all part of this elite society. So don't ever be fooled when you see Russia and America talking about they're going to war over Ukraine. They're not going to war over Ukraine. The war is going to kick off in the Middle East through Iran and Israel. That's where the war is going to kick off. That's what's going to be the catalyst of the Third World War. America and Russia going to war over Ukraine is never going to happen, because behind the scenes they're all sharing the same cake. What they're fighting over is what piece of the cake and how much of the cake is theirs. Anyway, Jewish attacks upon it thus far make much of the fact that it came out of Russia. That is hardly true. It came by the way of Russia. It was incorporated in a Russian book published about 1905 by Professor Niels, who attempted to interpret the protocols by the events then going. So he tried to work it out, were the protocols kicking in back then, but they weren't. That was just the beginning. Okay, page 31. Second paragraph. For if we were definitely known that in France or Switzerland in the year 1896 or thereabouts, a group of international Jews assembled in a conference drew up a program of world conquest, it would still have to be shown that such program was more than a mere vagary, that it was confirmed at large by efforts to fulfill it. The protocols are a world program. There is no doubt anywhere of that. Whose program is stated within the articles themselves. So it's telling you that the protocols, which we'll get to later on in this book, was a world program designed by these Illuminatist Jews. So when it's talking about the Jews, you're talking about the Oppenheimers, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. You know, all of these people are the top elite. They're like on top of the table within the Illuminati. Okay, page 32, first paragraph. It says the documents most frequently mentioned by those who are interested in the theory of Jewish world power. And when I refer to these Jewish people, I'm talking about the so-called Jews, those Khazars, Eastern Europeans that are in the Promised Land right now, in the Holy Land right now, who are not the real Jews. But just for verbatim, just so that you understand what we're talking about those Jews that are occupying the Holy Land, but they are not the real people of the Most High. They don't descend from the 12 tribes. So it says this, the documents most frequently mentioned by those who are interested in the theory of Jewish world power rather than in the actual operation of that power in the world today are those 24 documents, and those 24 documents are known as what? The protocols of the learned elders of Zion. So there are 24 protocols which they put together back in the late 18th century by the learned elders of Zion, who are a faction of the Illuminati, which were plans they put together in how they were going to destroy nations, create wars and rule the world. So if we quickly jump over here, there's a point, it says, and the fact that the program announced in these protocols is being steadily carried out, not only in France, but throughout Europe and every noticeability in the United States. So you've got to think, when this book was put together in 1905, they were saying back in 1905, they could see the early beginnings of this program being put together and the actual ideas of the Illuminati and what they're planning to do. They could see the seeds and the roots of their pushing out in Europe and in America. And this is back over 100 years ago they could see this. And this is probably about 30, 40 years after these papers were written. They started to see now the telltale signs. So it says here, it says, but all through the documents there is left no doubt as to the people against whom the plan is aimed. So it says all through the documents, the protocols, they've left no doubt as to the people against whom the plan is aimed. It is not aimed against the aristocracy as such. It is not aimed against capital as such. It is not aimed against government as such. Very definite provisions are made for the enlistment of the aristocracy, capital and government. for the execution of the plan. Because they need these people. These are their foot soldiers and government politicians, yeah, the people that run the corporations and the capitals and those businesses, and the aristocracy and the aristocracy, them as well, which are the elite. They need them to push out their plan. So it says it is aimed against the people of the world who are called Gentiles. It is a frequent mention of Gentiles that really decides the purpose of the documents. So when it talks about the Gentiles, in this particular instance, it's talking about people who they consider not Jewish or not belonging to one of the 12 tribes. But because these are not the real Jews, these are the Khazars, they themselves are Gentiles. So their plan is aimed at the Gentiles, but more specifically, their plans are aimed at the true children of the Most High, the true Jews, the true Israelites, the true descendants of the 12 tribes of Jacob. That's who their plans are directly aimed at, as well as the other Gentiles and the other nations. Yeah, so once again, these people are not the real Jews. Just to put there, they are proclaiming to be Jewish, as we always say, Jewish. They wish they were Jews. Yeah. So it says most of the destructive type of liberal plans aimed at the enlistment of the people as helpers. As I said, they're their foot soldiers, the governments, the politicians, the people that run those capital corporations, you know, the bankers and that. They're their foot soldiers. They're doing the work for the elites, the ones that sit at the very top of the echelon of the Illuminati. Yeah? So it says most of the destructive type of liberal plans aimed at the enlistment of people as helpers. This plan aims at the degeneration of the people in order that they may be reduced to confusion of mind and thus manipulated. Popular movement of a liberal kind are to be encouraged. And ain't that what you're seeing today in America? Your president talks about how liberal he is. He's this liberal president. He's got all these liberal ideas. They legalize homosexuality. They legalize marriage. They legalize lesbianism. They talk about this lesbian, gay, and all this bullshit that they're trying to push forward on all your TV programs and in your schools and your colleges. They're trying to tell your kids that it's okay to be gay. They're trying to tell your children that it's okay for 2 men to raise a child or 2 women to raise a child. This is madness, but this is all part of their plan. This is all satanic, but it's all part of their plan. So it tells you here, it says, popular movement of a liberal kind are to be encouraged. And that's exactly what they're doing today. And remember, this was written over 150 years ago. Yeah? All the disruptive philosophies in religion, which is what they're doing, economies, politics and domestic life are to be sown and watered for the purpose of so disintegrating social solidarity. And that's exactly what they're doing. Because people no longer know how to socialize.